Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Not a Story Time. Excuse me. Tonight, I'm going to read one of my favorites, okay? I love it. It's Find the Magic. The illustrations are just amazing. So grab a blankie, cuddle up, and let's have story time. One bright and shiny morning, Euripides, the frog, arrived at the cottage to visit his friends. "I'm stuck," Rip Squeak admitted as soon as he saw Euripides. "I just can't figure out what to draw." Said Euripides thoughtfully. "We will have to find a solution." Rip's little sister Jessie was struggling to dress her doll, Bunny, as a fairy princess. "I absolutely cannot get these costumes to look right," Jessie sighed. "I'm getting very impatient, and so is Bunny." My, muzzed Euripides, scratching his head and looking very concerned. Just then, Abby the kitten came around the corner. "There's not one nook or cranny that I have not explored 100 times," said Abby. "As everyone knows, cats are naturally curious, and there's nothing even remotely curious about this house." "Oh dear," said Euripides. "We will have to figure out what to do about all of this." The clever amphibian was never without a plan. If he didn't have a plan, at least he had an idea. If he didn't have an idea, at least he had a thought or two. "Perhaps we can," he muttered. No, that won't work," he added, interrupting himself. "Maybe we can, no, that isn't quite right either." Then, as if a great idea had just dropped right into his lap, he announced dramatically, "I have it. I will take you all to a magical place." Rip, Jessie, Abby looked up from their doldrums. They were ready to follow Euripides. "We've been walking a very long time," sighed Rip. And indeed, they had. They had walked past the cottage grounds, away from the pond, and along the old country road. "Never fear," roared Euripides. "We're almost to the magic place." Look what it is. It's the old bookshop. They finally reached a little shop where they pushed and pushed on a heavy door until it was open but a smidgen, which, by the way, is just enough room to let a frog, a cat, and 2 little mice through. Inside, the friends were greeted by the most unexpected sight. From floor to ceiling, there were shelves and shelves and more shelves, crammed and jammed with books. Big books, small books, little books, fat books, thin books, books everywhere. As Rip, Jessie, and Abby eyeballed their surroundings, Euripides exclaimed, "It's time you see for yourself that there is magic all around us." He opened a large volume and waved Rip forward. "Spend a moment with this book," Euripides whispered. "Gaze deep into the picture, if you will, and find the magic." It was a book about knights in shining armor. Rip found himself caught up in the tales of the brave and bold warriors, their code of chivalry, and their gallant deeds. He felt like he could step inside the very pages of this book, and then he did. When Rip finally looked up from the book, he smiled at Euripides. "Now I know exactly what to draw," he said. Look at that. "But what about me?" begged Jessie. "Take a look here," Euripides said as he opened up another book and laid it before her. "This world of fantasy is all yours." Jessie turned to a picture of a fairy wonderland filled with lovely flowers, gentle creatures. She couldn't take her eyes off the page, and magically she was transformed. When Jessie closed the book, she could barely catch her breath. "Bunny will be so impressed when we play fairy princess. I'll make her the best costume ever." 1001 Arabian Nights. "This looks like worth exploring," Abby said, as she crawled onto the pages of the book. Almost immediately, she was transported. When she finished reading, Abby purred. "There's no reason for me to ever get bored again, not with so many incredible stories." Euripides sat back and watched his friends, with their heads buried deep in their stories. Their earlier mood had vanished, and they looked happy and content. Then Rip was tugging on Euripides' jacket. He said, "You've been so busy finding magic for all of us, you haven't found any for yourself." Abby and Jessie nudged a book forward, and Rip opened it. "Yes," he cried, "it's a perfect for a friend who helped us figure out the answers to our problems and save the day." Euripides looked at the book they had chosen for him and chuckled. "Well, this is just how I imagine myself." He began to read aloud. The thick London fog closed in around the great detective. In an instant, Euripides found himself 100 years and 1,000 miles away. When Euripides was able to pull himself away from his story, he glanced at his pocket watch, announced that it was time to head back. "But there's so much more to look at," said Rip. "Of course," said Euripides. "There are books of high adventure and history, tales of fantasy and mystery, stories of far-off lands. But never fear, my friends. Anytime we need to learn or be inspired, or when we just want to have fun, the magic will always be here." And that's the end. I love this book. It is Nana's favorite book. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you could talk to your mom and dads and have them share to get the word out about Nana Story Time, that would be great. And littles, don't forget, wash your face, brush your teeth, and make sure to give mom and dads lots of hugs and kisses. Good night. Sweet dreams, everybody. Good night now.